Well, with that said, I want to turn to Tom Farrell. Tom has been on the show before, naturally, but Tom is scratch building his layout. So tonight we see the next phase of that scratch building. Tom, welcome.
Thank you again for having me. I appreciate being on the show, and I hope we can help it make it continuing to be interesting for everybody. Let me just jump right in here. Everybody see that and hear that? Hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this evening I'm going to continue the building of my concrete dam, and then I'm going to retrofit an old scratch build that I wasn't pleased with and show you what I'm going to do with it. So first, this was featured last week, scratch building the concrete dam for the Salt Creek River, seen on my new Rustic, Buff, and Old Gothic railroad. Phil, one of our support people here on New Tracks, noticed that I had sort of a technical error on this, on my dam. If you notice to the center of the dam here, that's the spillway. So when the water in the theoretical lake behind overflows, it goes down the spillway. The problem is that it would also go down the left and right of the dam. So that was a good call by Phil. So I retrofitted the dam to make it more or less technically correct. I added to the left and right of the dam, I added basically just two, quote, concrete walls, abutments to extend the height of that. And there they are up close. I just used 1/4-inch basswood, which will look like cast concrete when I'm done, as you'll see. And then behind the dam, rather than having just a hole, I added this wing and I painted it green, and then I hit it with Mod Podge several times so that when you peer at the dam, you'll see what appears to be water. So there's the dam test fit in place. See this early picture of the Mod Podge back there is still wet, but this has the wing walls here, and then it has these additions. So in the event that the water actually spills over the spillway, it doesn't go down the left and right of the dam. So again, thank you, Phil. That was a good catch. Next, I placed the dam onto the layout. I used this fast grab tack glue. So I applied it on all surfaces because I'm going to be pouring Envirotex or Woodland Scenics epoxy, and I obviously don't want any leaks. So I want to try and seal. The dam's actually going to have to do its job and keep the epoxy from rolling to the back of the layout. So here's the glue, of course. There it is in place. Next up was to finish the Sculptamold. So I put in some foam here, just some scrap pieces. And then with my putty knife, I just started putting in the Sculptamold. So I had it all in place. So this will be like a rock face here. This will be a rock face. And this will be some kind of scenery. Jim asked, where exactly is this dam on the last show? I hope this clears it up. The covered bridge goes across this span and on these two abutments. And so you won't really see this, but I had to put something there. You will see it if you look at it from the left side, but it's just part of the deal, just to make it make it correct. So it's here I just used Woodland Scenics. They're green. These are just base colors. I will go ahead and paint this up with acrylics, have the appearance of a little depth in the middle and some shallowness to the shoreline, but you've got to make a nice base colors to make those epoxies come off well. I did pause the construction of this scene because I'm going to add a couple of boats, and I want the boats placed on the base here, on top of the sculptor mold. I'll pour the epoxies out around the boats. I ordered some resin kits from a company called Frenchman River Model Works. They've got a whole bunch of resin kits, just seems to be their specialty. They have HOS, O scale, and 1/24. And also they have, many of you remember Thomas York was on our New Tracks modeling for several shows, coming out of retirement to do a kit. This is the company that picked up 35 or 36 of his kits. They're all O scale, but I mentioned he's sort of a quasi-celebrity in our hobby. These kits are just absolutely world-class. Even if you're not in O scale, I urge you to go to Frenchman River Model Works and look at some of Tom York's work. He's just a real artist. Okay, now I have a freight depot that I made about 2 years ago, and I never placed it on my old layout. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like the way it came out. It's scratch built. It just doesn't, it's just not a handsome looking model. Maybe it's just me, but it's the roof line is what I think the problem is. I just don't like the way it came out. And I've had this happen to me before where I've put all this time into a scratch build and I simply don't like it when I'm all done. So I had this brainstorm to resurrect this scratch build, get it off the shelf, put it on my new layout, put a little work into it. I mean, this is a very crude drawing. I don't normally draw anything up, but the idea is I'm going to put an extension off of this, change that roof line, and put in some sort of support. This is going to function as a freight depot that exchanges standard O scale to my narrow gauge railroad. So this is an interchange is the idea. So what I did is I took a piece of plywood, everything I build's on plywood, and I super glued this plywood end on end to the model. And I'm going to put in a wooden deck floor. So I took these are craft sticks from Hobby Lobby. They're very inexpensive. I can see the graining here. I took a razor saw on the raw wood, and I grained the wood, and then using 3 or 4 different alcohol washes, I stained them all different colors. There's dark brown, there's blue gray, there's grayish, and then I cut them up into 8-foot sections, 4-foot sections, and 2-foot sections. And then I began super gluing them down. Well, first I super glued the track down. Then I put a spacer, a piece of plywood in here to bring this center section up to the same level as these ties. And then I began randomly gluing these quote flooring boards onto the base of this, onto the track and onto this plywood. This is about as far as I got. And I will build a structure out around this. So there'll be a full scale O scale freight car on the standard gauge line, and then there'll be a narrow gauge box car on the other. And the idea is this is the end of the line for the Rustic, Buff, and Old Gothic up above. When I operate my layout in a point-to-point fashion, this is the last stop on the railroad, and it switches to standard gauge is the concept. And there'll be a steam locomotive here and a freight car in standard gauge. There'll be static displays. There's just up close. You know, when you, I want to show this photo because see all this fuzz? I just want to make a note that when I'm all finished with putting this planking in place, I will take a one of these butane barbecue fire starters, and I'll just flick it on and burn off all this fuzz. And no, you don't burn your house down. It's just, you just flick it on and off. It just burns the fuzz right off. Just a little side note, yeah, little tip. This is where it's going to be located. As you'll see, to the left is the shanty town. To the right is this. This is only about a foot wide here. So this is the narrow gauge On30 here. There'll be 2 turnouts that'll be controlled by the Barrett Hills touch toggles. And this is the standard gauge track here. So to the left, you can see there's a little bit of shanty town. This is going to be the freight depot interchange. So this is the narrow gauge here. These will be stub ends. They'll end right here. And here's the standard gauge. It's going to end in a tunnel. Finally going to find some use for this urethane. I bought this probably 20 years ago, but I'll paint this black in here so you don't see anything. And this will all look like wood when I'm done, but this will be an interesting little scene. So the standard gauge goes off into the sunset. The narrow gauge ends in a stub right here. There's the shanty town to the left. Again, I stopped working on it because the next step is to put those boats that I purchased, and I've got to wait for them to come in, and I'll feature those in the build. And so I little sidetracked here. I'm working. I'll finish this structure, put in this track. So I'm just hopping around back and forth here, as we do in the hobby. That's all I have for you this evening. Yeah. Any comments?
Anybody have any questions for Tom?
Yeah, Tom, I think the station looks fabulous.
Oh, you like it? I don't know. I just didn't like it. I guess, you know, maybe I should have got a second opinion, but I'm gonna go ahead with this retrofit. I think it'll improve it anyway. Yeah.
How'd you find this company, Fisherman's Models? How'd you find them? I never heard of them.
Yeah, I hadn't heard it either. On Facebook, I'm not sure of the page. It might have been the On30 page from Al Judy. There's a fellow that's been featuring dockside structures and a dockside scene that he's doing. And I saw that he had a couple boats on there, fishing boats. And I said, hey, where'd you get, did you scratch build those fishing boats? Because I was prepared to scratch build a couple boats. And he said, no, I got them from Frenchman River Model Works. And I had never heard of that. And like I said, I went on there and they were just beautiful kits, resin kits. And then he's the guy carrying the Tom York stuff, which is like carrying the Mona Lisa,
Yeah, Jim, the boats I showed and that barge, the car barge, are all from Frenchman River. They make really nice resin kits.
Yours were ON30 or O scale?
O scale, but the barge actually is ON30, so it's because it's the rails molded in ON30. Yeah, I can show some pictures of it at some point, but yeah, they're very nice kits. They finish very well. Absolutely.
I urge all of you to take a look at that site, Frenchman River Model Works, and I mean he covers almost all the scales, HOS, O scale, and 1/24th, and just gaze at the Tom York. There's 35 of his kits on there. They're just beautiful. I'll be showing how I'm making that one of his boats, I mean, fishing boats. So
Okay.
thank you, Phil, for correcting my dam. All right. Thank you again for having me, everyone.
Yes, sir. Thank you for doing it.